All right, I want to show you how to run a SQL query using the built-in admin tool in XAMPP. So first I'm going to fire that up. If you recall, that's this little admin button, but it's the one beside the MySQL. So I'm going to click that. It'll open in a browser. And not to get off track, but if you don't like the browser that it opens in, like if it opens in Internet Explorer, and you want to use Firefox, you can just copy this address up here, paste it into a different browser, and use the admin tool there. All right, but what we want to do is run an SQL query against a table or database in here. So really the first thing you want to do is go find the database you want to work against. So if you have a database, I think I created this one called inventory, or I have some stuff in this test. So the first thing you want to do is click that database where your stuff is that you want to run queries on. So now it's using that test database and I can do some queries against some of these tables. So I clicked that over here. Next step is to click this SQL tab. So that's really the main two steps. Make sure you click the database where your stuff is first, then click that SQL tab. Let me just run a query, a very simple query real quick, and then I'll talk about some behaviors of this little interface. So I'm going to run a query or type in a query here, and notice it has some stuff to help you. If you want to use that, you can. In fact, I'll show you how to use that if you don't want to type it all. If I type SE and this comes up, I think you can hit tab or you can double click that and it'll finish typing it for you. So I don't want you to get too lazy with that, but there's some help in here. So I'm going to do select, I'll just do select star for this one to keep things quick. And again, one of these tables, maybe I'll pull it from patients. And notice it even suggests the table names for you if you want to let it type all that for you. So once you've typed your query in here, to run it using this interface, you're going to hit this little go button down here. And it'll show you the results. So here are all the results of that query. Notice it might have more than one page, so watch out for that. Like I think I've got like 70 some records here, and it's only showing the first 25. So if you want, maybe you could drop this down to make sure it shows maybe more results, or just watch out for that so that you don't think, why did I only get 25 back when I was thinking I might get 70. But here's the other thing you definitely need to know when using this interface is you could have made a mistake, you could have made a typo, or you want to maybe change this query to do something else. And the way to get back to the SQL is to hit this edit button here. So to run it, we hit that go button. To go back to our SQL, we want to hit edit, and it'll take us back there where we can maybe modify it or do something different with our query. That's really it. Let me just modify this just so we can see something different. I'll do an order by, and I'll do it by last name maybe. Run it again. So that's how you kind of go back from your SQL, your raw SQL, back to the query results, and like I said, back and forth by hitting this edit button. So the other thing I want to show you in this video is an additional SQL thing to do. It's going to be, we talked about criteria before. So let's just add some criteria to this and then I'll talk about that other thing. So let's say I want to look for patients with a certain street or from a certain city or something like that. So I'll do select I'll just select everything again from patients table. So typical criteria would be where a field that you want to match on. So I'll say where city equals something. Field name equals greater than, less than, and then if I'm looking for an exact match, I'll put equals and then the thing I'm trying to match, in this case, inside a single quote. So let's try that. And then I'll talk about a different way of looking for matches. So if you do equal to whatever, it's going to look for exact matches on that. What I want to show you is what's called a wildcard search. And all that means is maybe we wanted just people with last names starting with S, or people with last names starting with D, or something like that. The way to do that is you're going to have to do something a little bit different in your where clause. So you're still going to have field and then a comparison and then the value you're looking for. But with wildcards, there's a couple things you got to do different. So I'm going to do where first name So when you're doing a wildcard, if I'm looking for a first name equal to John, I would just say where first name equals John. But if you're doing a wildcard, you have to do where field name, in this case first name, like. So that's a new SQL keyword that is used when you're doing wildcard searches versus exact matches. So I've got field name, like, and then inside quotes, you're going to do a wildcard search. So maybe first name like, I don't know, S, and then a %, and I'll explain all that in a minute. Let's run this and see if it works. So notice we got a different, we didn't look for exactly for Smith or exactly for Cheryl or whatever that is. We looked for anybody with the first name that starts with S. So that's the results we got. So it's important to know how to do that sort of wildcard search. Let me bring that up and put it in a spot where we can read it a little better. So the where clause looks a little bit different. Instead of field name equal to an exact value, we're saying field name like. So just remember that. Whenever you're doing wildcards, it'll be field name, then keyword like, instead of equal to or greater than or less than. And then you'll have to use this % to sort of represent the wildcard. So this is basically saying, because it's a string, it goes inside the single quotes, and it's basically saying it starts with an S, and then anything else can come after that. And that's what gave us the results of two different names that started with S, but that had different things after it. So the wildcard search, field name, keyword like, and then you have to use that % to represent something. Let's change this and see if we can get some different results, just to show you how that % works. So notice this thing actually tries to put single quotes around the table name, which I don't like, so let me fix that. So I'll do last name this time. And I'll do that like again. This time I'll try to find ones that end with S, if there are any. So I'm going to do %S instead of S %. So I only got one result down here, but notice I was looking for last names, this time instead of beginning with S, ending with S. So notice I got one hit, which I didn't know what it started with, but it does end with an S. So let me just bring that SQL up in a place that's easier to read and hopefully explain that. So notice now, field like, but because I put % first and the S afterwards, it's basically saying, okay, a last name, doesn't matter what it starts with, that's what that % wildcard means. But since I put that S at the end, it means, okay, it has to end with an S. So that's the wildcard character. It can be used in various ways, like if we wanted to look at cities that started with a certain letter or started with a certain 2 or 3 letters, we could use the wildcard to do that.